everyone. Welcome to Voices of STEM. Today, Tianxia Xiao will be our speaker. She is actually one of the first speakers that Penelope and I thought of as we were planning the series. Tianxia is a fourth-year grad student in the chemistry department, working in the Rabinovitz lab on energy metabolism, especially how to produce useful chemicals from natural or renewable resources. Outside of lab, Tianxia is a very experienced organizer of science communication workshops and events. She's really socially engaged and passionate about communicating academic knowledge to the general public. She actually organized this workshop series in 2019 to 2020 on scholarly communication in social settings. So today she will talk about raise a picture of ideas, and as we will see, her talk will be really interactive. So Tianxia, we are excited to hear her talk.
Thank you, Hannah. I think Hannah already done like a perfect elevator speech for me, so there's maybe not so much room for me. But anyway, I kind of feel like many people has joined this workshop already. So if you don't mind, like I would like to take maybe 2 or 3 minutes, like for each one to briefly. I don't know, tell me your name and your year and maybe your interest or your research area. So Sebastian, you're the first one to have your camera up, so I hope you don't mind to start.
Yes, of course. So my name is Sebastian. I'm a fourth-year grad student in the Ecology and Evolutionary Biology department. And
nice.
For my PhD, I'm studying how alpine plants respond to climate change, and in particular how climate affects the way different plant species interact with each other, and how those changes will drive the dynamics of alpine communities.
I think my research area also concerns the environment. So hello there, and anyone else that may want briefly introduce yourself to me?
Hi, everybody. My name is Wendy Plump. I'm the communications and writer for the Department of Chemistry at Princeton University. And I just wanted to drop in and see what you all were up to. Looking for story ideas and just to find out what interests you all. So hello, thank you for having me.
Hi, Wendy. Nice to meet you.
I'll go next. I'm Christopher. I'm a third year in ecology and evolutionary biology. And I study how the genome creates different phenotypes, but in my case, it's a mimetic phenotype of these 2 butterflies. And one creates this phenotype with half the genome size of the other. And so I'm interested in how that genome reduction causes changes in the way that the phenotype is created and how that interacts with the environment.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, sort of the Genome Institute, so I'm also sort of familiar with the topic. Anyone else? I see. I hope I'm not calling anyone's name, but Bianca.
Hi, I'm Bianca. I'm a first-year PhD student in chemical and biological engineering. I'm just getting into my research group, but it'll be in the field of process systems engineering.
Oh, cool. And how about, I don't know, Katie, are you around?
Hi, I'm Katie. I am a first-year PhD student in mechanical and aerospace engineering, and I haven't decided my research topic yet, but I'm working with the lab that studies turbulence in the department.
Cool. And our
Nehemiah, are you there to weigh in as well?
I am here. Hello, I am a first-year PhD student in chemical and biological engineering, and my research is on studying plastics and how they degrade.
Thank you. Yeah, it's kind of amazing, this group. So first of all, I think everyone is already sort of a master of explaining their research area, to me at least, and then maybe I'm slightly biased because my interests actually span probably have some intersections with your interests as well. Like, I mean, like technically in chemistry and like doing biological sciences, and I'm happy even for the MAE part, like I'm also seeking some collaboration with the MAE labs. So it happens to be a group that I fully understand. You guys are doing an amazing job. I'll go into my talk. So the talk, I'm doing a pun here, that reads a picture of ideas. I think like all of us are naturally, like able to communicate. And I mean, we're in the PhD study. We're full of ideas. It's just I think like the workshop, like, or what we're doing is to help you to see this like speaker in yourself, and also give it nutrients and to breathe it. And hopefully we can also say cheers at the end. Like, so here's kind of my brief elevator speech. Let's see. Inside the lab, I research yeast that will be helpful for green energy. Outside the lab, I use yeast to make food that promotes health. I often talk about renewable energy and about healthy lifestyles, and at all times, I advocate for communication skills. So I'm here to work together with you on communicating your areas of interest. And there's a little bit more about myself. Like, primary reason, like, I'm here to talk is basically my experience in the scholarly communication workshop that I have initiated during like 2019 and 2020. And I was in person, that was a pre-pandemic. And then during the past year, like, I have been involved several like startup and VC events that involve, like, including TechStart Bootcamp during the winter, going into the eLab Accelerator, and I'm also currently a Grad Futures Fellow. Many of these events, like in which like I have did elevator speech and a different formats. So I wanted like to share some of my perspectives in terms of how this how to approach elevator speeches. But like before that, I want to say I think the communications brings possibility, and there are many possible communication styles. I want to say, like, you probably can think there are a lot of diversity in audience. So there are also different preferences for your audience. As a conclusion, from my perspective, there is no best way to do your elevator speech. And I'm not here to lecture you on, the absolutely golden criteria of a best elevator speech. But I want to convince you to view communication as a work in progress, and also build your confidence in continuously improving your elevator speech. I hope, you are comfortable with, like, communication, and then at least, like, throughout the progress, you'll become happy, always happy with outcome of your pitch. Here are some core tips I want to get everyone started. This is mostly based on my work for the communication workshop, that the step 1 is self-identification. Step 2 is know your audience, and the step 3 is to state the purpose. This is like, step 3 is also especially important for elevator speech, because you have a short amount of time that you need to basically reach a result. Like, there is a goal for your elevator speech, and it's normally not purely, casual conversations that it's just chit chat. I will start with impossible scenario. Like, if you read the email about my 2 favorite scientists, Leonardo da Vinci and Charles Darwin. So besides, like, as a painter, like Leonardo has also like many engineering design ideas. And just raise this random question, that how may Leonardo da Vinci pitch to Charles Darwin about building a flying machine? And let's try to dissect the problem with the steps I have talked about. So first, self-identification. So Da Vinci has been described as a divine painter by 1490s. Does this matter to building a flying machine? Probably not. It's maybe the most, like, Leonardo has been famous for as a painter, but not exactly too helpful to convince other people that he can build a flying machine. He has like a lot of ventures in like medicine, and the first 2 different atherosclerosis and then liver cirrhosis. Does it matter? I mean, technically, Charles Darwin, was raised in a medical family. Maybe he's familiar with some of the word, but not likely to be related to a flying machine. And interestingly, Leonardo has been employed as an engineer for city defense in Venice, back in 1499. And I mean, like, you can see there are at least some like mirrors in his employment as an engineer. At least he has some engineering skills. And so maybe this is something that he can brought up, like if that's what he want to convince other people that he can build a flying machine. And of course, maybe he has other mirrors that he can talk about too. And then the step 2 is to know your audience. Does Charles Darwin excel in engineering, like as a potential partner? Not likely. I mean, like, Charles Darwin has many interests, and I don't think engineering is particularly one of them. Is Charles Darwin a potential investor? Maybe. There's a possibility there because Charles Darwin is actually from a pretty like rich family. Like his like father is like physician. His mother was like born in a like influential family as well. He may have some money to spend, but he's not known as an investor. He's not, there's a lot of like uncertainty there. So probably not so much like, but like Leonardo can think about it. But does Charles Darwin need to travel long distances for his work? Of course, the origin species basically require Charles Darwin to travel around the world, and he actually did that. And then you can see like this, this figure for Charles Darwin like has a lot of like different animal species that can be found in different continents. So yes, Charles Darwin need to travel long distance for his work, and it's kind of related to the idea of a flying machine, which will help people to travel. Then state the purpose. It's more a step of connecting the dot and then like emphasize what was the main like goal of this elevator speech. So I doubt like seeking collaborators from talking to Charles Darwin will be helpful. And I talk about like maybe seeking investment is possible, but may not be the best, the most clearest approach. And how about finding customers? Possible. Like, I mean, like if Charles Darwin need to use a flying machine to travel around the world, then like it's probably like get some feedback from him. But like as you haven't even built a flying machine, maybe this can wait a little bit. But as Charles Darwin has a need of traveling, and it's kind of famous for his work too around the globe. So maybe it's a good way, to find promoters for the idea, find the ambassador for the idea, and then to connect to more people to serve this idea. Maybe that's what the main goal of this elevator speech. So just going to recap what this is, beyond that interesting scenario. I hope I already got you thinking. And then this is some questions that you might be able to ask yourself when you get started to prepare for elevator speech. The first is self-identification. So where are you in your work? I mean, like we got amazing audiences that spend different years like in the grad school from like first year and also like to the later stages. So like this is actually important, knowing where you are and what about your work. Do you care about it, and why do you care about it? What is at stake for you in these conversations? Like not exactly your goal for this conversation, but what are our possibilities that after this conversation? And sometimes you will get feedback from your elevator speech, or you will get a response. Hopefully you will get a response from your audience. But be prepared what come through you off or settle you in these questions or reactions your audience might have, especially when you are pitching for example, like pitching for your research. Maybe that's slightly more friendly. You probably got a more friendly audience for your research if you talk about to the public, but it's possible. Like I have got questions always asked about application of my research. Maybe some part of it's more theoretical, but like I need to find the link. I need to be prepared for that. And often when you talk about your startup, you will get probably more harsh questions from potential investors and or judges. But always thinking in the way that the questions are not exactly, I mean, the audience didn't mean to throw you off. It's just like you might feel in the way. So be prepared for that, so you can know what is, your feelings and what is, the audience intent, and that can be very important. And then, I mean, maybe sometimes it's actually hard to, ask ourselves about these questions. So that's why, like, maybe for the self-identification, you can even find a partner, your friends, your family, and then, like pitch to them in practice and then hear their feedback. And they may ask them, what kind of questions that you may ask if you were in the shoe of my target audience. And they will give you some interesting feedback, and it will help you to, prepare for these questions. And the second step was to know your audience. Who's your audience? What is their relationship to you? And what is the audience background? I mean, like, the background sometimes can be a little bit hard, but like, but normally you will at least get a like idea if this is an event, and you can ask about to the organizer, who might be the audience and who are the target audience, or like what's the kind of background that you normally get from your background audience from your past experience. And then like there are things that we can consider. What are some potential connections between your work and what you know about your audience? It's like, building the connections, finding which point that you can emphasize on. And also, as you know your audience background, you can sort of guess like what can they understand and what do you want to understand. I think a tricky part of elevator speech is that like normally you have less chance to network with your audience before your elevator pitch. Sometimes it could be, like you could get some chance, or you could have known your audience before the event, but often it's a little bit tricky that you need to guess. But then like I would say maybe to always emphasize what you know. Like if you know your audience is from engineering background, then probably you can emphasize like, anything that you can use that relies on their engineering knowledge, or expertise, or find a connection there. But don't assume that they don't know, for example, biology. Maybe they know it. Like, I mean, like I don't have, I don't have like mathematics list on my degree or anywhere on my resume, but I'm fun for that. And also like I like it since I was like a young child, so I know something like I can. And then also like I don't have, for example, Chinese literature listed on my resume, but I actually read a lot of books like, before I come to US, and I have been practicing writing in Chinese always. So there's something that probably not going to show on paper. Like you probably don't know what your audience don't know, but you know what your audience, you probably with some work, you probably know what your audience know. And then that's the part to emphasize on, and then try to avoid presumptions that your audience don't know your area. Like this is tricky, but and if you have questions, like I can try to explain more later. And the third step, the final step, is you state your purpose and fine tune. What does your success from this conversation will look like? And also always try to avoid disconnections. And you can tell, like you can look at your audience eyes and sort of scan. If you are talking, a room of audience, maybe you can look around the room, making sure that like you have almost everyone, with you, and identify the moment of disconnections. And the pitch always means to develop or maintain connections. So there are some like factors like you need to keep in mind. So first of all, time factor. Your audience have a limited time scope to hear you, so be concise. And also interpersonal, like personal human factors matters. Delivery style matters. And if you talk, like it's always to think about what can promote enjoyable conversation. I mean, like, yes, often in elevator speech, we have a time limit and we want to get to the point, but try to, put in some factors, maybe sometimes humors, before elevator speech can help. or maybe, you know, after if you're taking questions from our audience, it could help. If you don't have enough time to, you know, put additional, you know, jokes in your elevator speech, because that's not concise enough, maybe don't do that during the elevator speech, but before and after can also help. I mean, the last thing is practice, refine and rephrase the content to match the situation. Mostly you can practice before, but a lot of times for me, I practice on the dot. Like I run my elevator speech in my mind when I'm, you know, sitting there waiting to be my turn to talk to my audience. Like I will refine like small parts in my elevator speech during the event when I need to talk. And I think if some of these like tips may sound daunting to you, you can think about the way to be the ambassador for doctoral work and for discipline. When we think like we're promoting something, when you think as ambassador, it's sort of like, I think like for many of the workshop participants I have talked about, when they think in this way, they will think, oh yeah, so I'm ambassador, so I'm sort of like this like bright mission, will just boost your mood. So I think that works for in some of our experience. And then I think that could be a tip that so the style that you can adopt. Like if you find, you know, sometimes you're slightly worried about your performance. All right, so let me look at the time. All right, so we can do a small exercise sharing around the room that about the self-assessment before we going into the scenarios. And I mean, the first question is maybe you can take like 1 or 2 minutes to reflect on, like, what are you with your research? Are you first or second year? We got several first year here. Are you still exploring your research interests? Are you at a dissertation proposal stage, dissertating? Then, I mean, I hope you can look at the second part and then share your thoughts on this. For us, like wherever you are in your graduate work, what is your main research interest, and what do you think you want to work on, or what are you working on, and why this work is important to you. I think one thing I heard some feedback from first year students in my previous workshop was because they haven't chosen a lab, they're always shy when someone asks them, like what's your research, what are you working on, and they're like, okay, I haven't done my thesis proposal yet, I'm not technically working on anything, but maybe you can change your perspective. You're working on your proposal, you're working on finding the area that you want to work on. I mean, you want to research, and also it's definitely something that you want to work on, like maybe at least something you want to try. If you are not quite sure you will commit full 5 years on it, that you have some list of ideas to try. And I think that's worth to talk about. Like there's a lot of things that goes in the decision process, and sometimes it's great to hear some other people's feedback, or thoughts on your decision criteria. So that's just some thoughts sharing right there. And
we lost Tianxia a little bit, right?
Yeah, are you here?
Okay, while she's joining back, oh, she's back. Okay. So we lost you for a minute at the end there.
Oh, from me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. So
maybe the last.
Sorry, where did you lost me?
Just when you were reading over the second question for self-assessment, right after that.
Oh no. Okay. Anyway, I was sharing that like some my previous feedback, like some feedback I received in my previous workshop about when first year have troubles to talk about like when they receive the question of what they are researching on, they may be shy to answer that question because they haven't started their research work in a particular area. But I think one way to think about it is like we're always working on something, like we're maybe working on finding our interest, maybe we're working on our proposal, maybe we're working on trying out several different areas, and then like I think that's always important to talk about. And there has been definitely a lot of thinking process in whichever decision, like in terms of research and work. And then I think everyone should have a confidence saying, like I'm still thinking, but I'm looking at this and that area because I have several experiences. And maybe ask feedbacks on what your audience thought, and if maybe they can help your decision process, and also helping you to find more ideas for your potential research area as well. So that's what I was talking about. And because we're short on time, I just hope maybe one of the audience who want to share a little bit their thoughts on these two questions with the group.
Do we have a brave participant?
Any volunteer?
Hannah, you want to share?
Okay.
Where are you?
I'm in the third year of my of grad school, so it's kind of in the middle. I have published a few papers, so it's really in the middle. I'm thinking about what to do in my dissertation. So I'm working on statistical mechanics, and what interested me is that you really have this bridge between microscopic and macroscopic worlds. Like it's like you do some poll on molecules. They are little molecules, but after you collect their results and you do some statistics, and really predicts the large scale behavior, like pressure, compressibility, elasticity, so on. So that's important because it helps scientists to design new materials. The questions like what kinds of molecules and microscale molecules are needed to achieve that big property. That's for me.
Thank you, Hannah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe I will highlight several parts that Hannah has been, trying in her speech. And I need to say this is not a script. Like I didn't know that Hannah will be the participant. If you guys ever wonder. I think that like in the end, Hannah has been very detailed about her research interests. Probably like she has ventured several years into the progress, and I think one cool part is like she always think back to the bigger questions and to the general audience about the importance of her research, and make a link there. I think that's pretty awesome. Yeah. And that's all for my talk. We have pleasant half hour left for the activity that Hannah is going to lead us into.
Great, thank you, Tianxia. Before we start the mural activity, any questions for Tianxia? So thank you.
Thank you. I thought that was so excellent. I love the Darwin Da Vinci.
Thank you, panel.
Yeah.